Coming to you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, this is the Spit Sports Show. This is going to be a bit of a different kind of episode today. Usually in front of me, I by no means have a script, but I kind of have a skeleton of all the points that I want to hit. I'll have all my stats in front of me and kind of have a linear progression of how I want a video to go. Today, I don't have that. Today, I just want to talk about Alexander Ovechkin and the cultural impact that he's had on the sport of hockey that I don't think people really understand. Because as soon as he broke that record, all of the tweets and posts were all about him, his goals, and his stats, which are obviously unbelievable. He just passed Yager for the most game-winning goals of all time. He obviously, the big one, just passed Gretzky for the most goals of all time. And they've been going through his career highlights and really showcasing his legacy through his stats and scoring. And his historical legacy in the NHL as one of the 10 greatest players of all time, which there is nothing wrong with. I think it's awesome. And I think obviously his career should be celebrated and praised on this day. But I think I'm uniquely situated in this position as a host of a sports podcast, as someone who was born in 2005. And there aren't a lot of people who were born from 2003 till that around 2007 area who have this kind of platform to talk about sports in general. And I think for people of my generation, Alex Ovechkin holds a very special place in all of our hearts, way beyond scoring goals. I know for me personally, and I'm going to preface all of this by saying he is my favorite athlete of all time. I apologize to nobody about that. I don't care about politics when it comes to sports. I think they're two totally separate things. It's the same thing with music. I can separate the art from the artist. So, growing up in British Columbia, hockey was everywhere. You couldn't turn within 2 blocks without seeing a hockey net outside or kids playing in the street. It was really the only sport you played growing up with all of your friends because you knew everyone had a hockey stick and at least one of the kids on your street would have a net and you'd get an awesome game going and you'd meet people that way and it was just such a cool communal thing. But the thing growing up that really turned me off about hockey wasn't the game itself. It's probably not probably. It is the most fun game to play in the world, especially on skates. It's so fast. There's such quick decision making. The camaraderie is unbelievable. But in terms of the culture surrounding the game, it just felt to me as a very young kid. I'm talking like 5 to 7 years old. It was just so boring. All of the players, whenever I'd watch Hockey Night in Canada, same cliched answers all of the time. Pucks in deep, like all of the cliches that they still use to this day, to be totally honest with you. Pucks in deep, got to make sure we're playing a 200-foot game and all of that kind of stuff. And coming into it as a guy who also had an affection for the NBA and then later the NFL, it didn't really feel like there was any color to it. It didn't feel like there was any excitement around the game of hockey. It just felt like every player was the same. And as people, we relate to characters. That's the prime reason behind every great movie ever made is we feel an emotional connection to people. And in hockey, when I was growing up, and still sort of true now, I'll get to that later, it felt like these weren't people, they were robots. They were programmed to play hockey and give the most, what's the word, monotone, cliche interview answers you can imagine. And there was no real style or swag, I guess, if you could use that word. The best, most flamboyant part of the hockey culture at the time was what suit is Don Cherry going to wear today? And again, I'll get to him in a little bit because he's a bit of a part of this story too. But that changed when you see Alex Ovechkin come into the league as a Russian guy who just has an insatiable energy about him as a person and an insatiable energy for scoring goals. This is a guy who came into the league not at all privy to the North American hockey culture, and he didn't care about the waves that he was going to make when he came into it. Like, he came into this league with some of the craziest celebrations that we've ever seen that stick on fire, people still talk about. Obviously, unbelievable Selly last night with the dive and jumping into the boards constantly. Just the excitement that he had while playing hockey was infectious for a young kid to watch. And I know that I'm not the only one that this relates to. I know there's probably some other kids out there similar to my age watching who probably had a similar jolt of excitement and wonder about seeing this guy who was just having fun and a real person with flaws playing this sport that was played again by what felt like robots. He came out with tinted visors. He had yellow skates. He still has them to this day. He would wear green laces. Um, he would drive fast. There were ESPN specials about him going, what was it, 220 on the freeway. He was literally in a rock band. There were plenty of videos of him singing and jamming out on the guitar and acting nuts. And obviously, he would run around and just giant hits, throwing his body around. It was just such a breath of fresh air from what we grew accustomed to, which was, again, robots and people who felt like they were programmed to be professional hockey players. And again, going back to Don Cherry, Ovechkin literally said something along the lines of that during the same ESPN special that I'm referring to. He kind of mocked Don Cherry, going, meet more, score a goal. I'm sure you've seen the clip before. And when he came into the league, what happens with this, with every single sport, is when you come into the league as a divider, as a culture changer, people are always going to find ways to try to bring you down to their level because everybody knows when you're a black sheep, you're the outsider, people don't like you. That's just how the world works, unfortunately. And for a while, every single criticism of Alex Ovechkin looked like it was going to be correct. Like, for a while, I mentioned the big hits. People said that he wouldn't last. This style of him throwing his body around everywhere, taking big hits, going into corners. They said that he wouldn't have the longevity of a Gretzky or any of these other guys. And for a while, again, it looked like they were right. From 2010 to 2013, he averaged only 35 goals a year. 2010-11, he had 32. 11-12, he had 38. 12-13, he had 32. It looked like he was slowing down at 32 years old. He looked like he was at the back nine of his career. But he caught a second wind. He figured out what works for him. And now he's looking back at those times, averaging on pace for a 50-goal season at 39 years old, laughing, thinking, what the heck were those seasons? But at the time, the wear and tear on the human body is definitely a real thing. We thought that would add up on him, but it didn't happen. And then the next narrative was from when he started recovering back to his 50-goal pace. Oh, you can't win with that style. He's a playoff choker. And obviously that was dumb on its face. Anyone who watched those early Capitals playoff games know that Ovi was the least of the Capitals' problems in the playoffs. He actually put up slightly better numbers in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. But he never had the team around him. And people took that as this guy, individual scoring, not the greatest passer, not the all around center playmaker like Crosby is. He's not going to be able to win the big one. And then he did. Again, he just has been knocking down these narratives all of his life. And then it comes to this, where he's going up against the greatest hockey player of all time in the highest scoring era by a mile of all time. How the heck is he going to break the all-time goals record? It's impossible. Even he himself said it in 2016. It's impossible. I'm like, it's not going to happen. But he overcame his own expectations. And look at where we are now, even this season. Like, after he broke his leg, did you think that he was going to break the record this year? I definitely questioned it. I thought he would because I don't bet against the guy. But it was definitely not a sure thing. And he comes back after the Four Nations, averages a 51 goal pace, and now all of a sudden he's broken it with another 4 or 5 games left to play. What my point is about Ovechkin is coming into hockey fandom, it really is good for little kids to have someone they can look up to that's fun and that has personality and that is not afraid to express themselves. Because as people, that's super important just to be yourself, not to fit into this bubble or this shell of what people want you to be, and to just, again, go with what you want to go with. And as a hockey fan growing up, it seemed like you didn't really have a choice. You were just pucks in deep. Here we go. White laces, black tape. Every hockey player felt the same. There was no real personality to it. And that all started with Alexander Ovechkin. And if you look at the hockey culture now, obviously it's still compared to the 4 other North American sports, it's definitely the most diluted in terms of personalities. There's no doubt about it. But off of Alex Ovechkin has been spawned Austin Matthews, all of these other guys who have just style and swagger and just a little bit of extra sauce to their personalities. Obviously, we'll never see another Alex Ovechkin again. He is a once in a lifetime athlete who is just able to do things that that no one else can do. It's really that simple. But what he's been able to do with especially these American players coming in now and Canadian players alike who grew up watching him. Like, it's not the best example, but Zegras coming in and Ryan Leonard has a bunch of personality coming in, and Mitchkov, who is, once he figures out his English, I'm sure is going to be hilarious. He's already had some awesome quotes. He's spawned a whole generation of hockey players who just aren't afraid to show their own take on the game, both on the ice and off the ice. And it's because of his trailblazing that we've seen just a new wave of appreciation for hockey and hockey culture. Because I think hockey culture in general is awesome. I really do. I think it's very team first, and in general, where we see NBA players quit on their teams and load manage, and NFL players asking out constantly and constant turnover. There's a sense of loyalty and wanting to play all 82 games in the NHL that I just don't see in other sports nowadays. And again, I attribute a lot of that to Ovechkin because he was able to be an eccentric personality who showed everybody what he wanted to do while also being the ultimate team player, 82 games a year, one franchise, says everything right to the media. I can't think of a single time where Ovechkin's personality really got him in trouble other than that one clip where he's going on the golf cart and he has to like duck his head. That was pretty funny. And obviously that wasn't a media thing, but he could have killed himself. But anyway, um I think Ovechkin, along with the not monotonous, that's not the right word, watered down personality of Crosby. Those two generational players rising up through the ranks together, I think has influenced hockey culture in a perfect direction. I really do. And I think Crosby deserves credit for that. And I'm gonna give it to him when he probably retires because he's not gonna get a record like this. He's obviously not gonna break the all-time points record. And it just fascinates me how hockey culture, I wish I could come up with another word besides hockey culture because I feel like I've said that a bunch of times this video, but it's the only one I've got. It fascinates me how it can be so watered down, and yet there can be these just flashpoints of color and burst come through the scenes. And I think it's inspiring for little kids who want to play the game because, again, we don't connect with robots. We don't connect with pucks in deep. We connect with people and people's personalities and all of the good and all of the bad that comes with it. That's all I've got for today, guys. If you want my personal, I'm gonna give a quick personal anecdote. Um, me growing up as modeling my game after Ovechkin, if I can go that far, I was never good enough to really have a game to model after. I was just a decent player, but just having him as a guy who to look up to as, scoring goals is pretty awesome. And I don't know, he's really impacted me in a way where it's a freedom playing hockey. I don't know how to describe it. I'm probably not doing the best job communicating this, but I think he's a really special once in a lifetime athlete who I've fortunately had the blessing to watch most of his career as a cognitive human being who can remember all of the moments throughout his career. His Stanley Cup run in 2018 was something that I'll never ever forget. It's still the only time where my favorite team has won a championship in any sport. Um, Never forget that. And now, after breaking this record, it's just another one of those moments where I'll never forget where I was when I saw him rip that puck from his office to reach 895. And he's going to forever be remembered in the history books as the greatest goal scorer ever because he is. He's played in by far the toughest era to score goals, and he's done it more consistently and better than anybody else ever. And now that legacy is set in stone and immortalized forever. And I could not be more happy about it. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, I want to know, what did you guys think of the video today? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Bit of a new format. Please let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed what you heard, please leave a like on the video to let me know. Please subscribe if you haven't already. The Spit Sports Show, just over 400 subscribers. Big stuff happening on this channel. As always, I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.